You knew this was coming. When the family of one of your veteran teammates starts shading you online, subtweets, snide comments, even full-on Facebook rants, there's only so long you can bite your tongue. Caitlin Clark? She bit it for a while. But this week, she bit back. And what started as a simmering locker room tension has officially boiled over into a full-on personal and professional battle inside the Indiana Fever. And it's spilling out into the public like a ruptured fire hydrant on a hot summer day. Let's rewind. If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. The whole drama really began with the infamous halftime blow-up. You remember it. The viral moment caught on camera during a game against the Atlanta Dream where Clark, visibly frustrated, barked out at her teammates, gesturing in disbelief as yet another possession ended with her wide open on the perimeter, ignored. Clark didn't sugarcoat it in the locker room either. According to multiple sources from that game, she directly called out teammates, particularly the veterans, for freezing her out, for not running the plays correctly, and for treating her like a problem rather than the solution. Coach Stephanie White tried to step in, tried to calm things down, but it was too late. The air had already turned toxic. The next morning, Kelsey Mitchell's sister, who has since deleted the post, but not before screenshots were saved and circulated, posted a blistering message that read something like, "Just because you got drafted number 1 doesn't mean you run the team. Respect those who've been grinding here for years." Y'all act like she invented basketball. That post lit the match. The comments poured in. Fans took sides. Mitchell's family doubled down. And Clark? Well, for a few days, she said nothing. Nothing official, anyway. But during the WNBA All-Star Media Circuit, Clark finally cracked the door, and what came through wasn't just a clapback. It was a calculated, cold-blooded reality check, delivered with a smile and a mic in hand. Asked if the drama with her teammates, and specifically the Mitchell family's online antics, was affecting her mindset, Clark paused, then dropped this gem. "I don't really worry about social media. I'm too busy actually playing basketball." Boom. If you listen closely, you can almost hear that one echoing to the Fever locker room, because Clark didn't name names. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. That comment did exactly what it was supposed to do. Remind everyone who's actually putting in the work, who's drawing defenders 30 feet from a basket, who's selling out arenas, who's breaking viewership records every time she laces up. It's her. It's Caitlin Clark. And if certain veterans or their families can't handle that, that's a them problem. What makes this so wild is that this drama isn't even coming from opposing teams. It's internal. That's what makes it feel so corrosive. The truth is, Kelsey Mitchell is a good player, a seasoned WNBA scorer. She's led the Fever in points for years and has been one of the few bright spots in an otherwise lackluster franchise history. But here's the hard truth no one in that locker room wants to say out loud. This isn't her team anymore. It's Clark's now. Period. She didn't ask for that role. It came with the draft pick, with the expectations, and with the entire world watching her every move. She didn't demand the spotlight. It was already waiting for her before she ever stepped onto court. And whether her teammates like it or not, she is the engine of this franchise. The problem is, not everyone's willing to get on board. Some of the veterans still seem to think they're the leaders. That Clark needs to wait her turn. That she hasn't earned it yet. But here's the kicker. They're not winning. They're not building anything. And if we're being honest, they weren't exactly tearing up the lead before Clark arrived, either. So when Mitchell's family comes out swinging, calling Clark arrogant or entitled or too Hollywood, they're not just venting. They're broadcasting the real fracture inside this team. Envy. Envy that Clark came in and instantly became the face of the franchise. Envy that she gets the endorsements, the fan love, the ESPN segments. Envy that her jersey is everywhere while there's collect dust at the back of the team shop. And instead of rising to the occasion, instead of seeing Clark's arrival as a chance to level up and finally compete, some of them are acting like it's a threat. But here's what makes Clark different. She knows how to respond without blowing up the whole locker room. That all-star comment wasn't just a clapback. It was leadership. She didn't drag Mitchell. She didn't name-drop anyone. She made her point, kept it classy, and let her performance do the talking. And talk it does. Clark is averaging team-high assists and second in scoring, despite barely getting the ball some quarters. Her court vision is unmatched. Her defense, while still improving, is a level above what critics expected. She's outworking everyone, diving for loose balls, taking hard screens, trying to make her team better. But it's hard to elevate the group when half the room is quietly rooting for you to fail. And that's the real tragedy of all this. The Indiana Fever could be great. The talent is there. The blueprint is there. But the culture? Right now, it's broken. You've got a generational rookie surrounded by veterans who can't decide whether they want to help her shine or dim her light just enough to feel relevant again. And Coach Stephanie White? She's caught in the middle, trying to play peacekeeper, trying to honor the vets while not alienating her star. But here's the thing. Great teams pick a direction. You can't keep straddling the fence between two styles, two identities, two timelines. Either this team is built around Clark's vision, her tempo, her spacing, her pace, or it's not. And the numbers don't lie. When the offense runs through Clark, the ball moves faster. The team shoots better. Transition points go up. Everyone touches the ball more. But that only works when the teammates want it to work, when they trust the system, when they stop playing side games and start playing basketball. Clark, for her part, is still trying. She talks to teammates during breaks. She calls out screens. She celebrates their buckets louder than her own. She's giving them every chance to be part of this journey. But she's not going to beg. And after her subtle but savage all-star remarks, it's clear she's also done letting outside noise distract her from the mission. Because here's the real plot twist. This whole Mitchell family saga may have actually helped Clark. It gave her a reason to refocus, to harden, to stop trying to please everyone and start leading with conviction. No more shrinking to fit in. No more deferring. No more pretending like she's just a rookie. She's not. She's a franchise. She's a solution to the Fever's chaos. If the team lets her lead, she'll take them to the playoffs. If they don't, she'll leave them behind, on the court and in the league narrative. And that's not ego. That's reality. Because Clark isn't just one of the best players on her team. She's already one of the most influential players in the league. She moves metrics. She shifts conversation. And as this incident shows, she knows exactly how to navigate drama without getting sucked into it. And here's where it really starts to sting. For the ones clinging to the past, and for those in the locker room who still believe this team can function without fully committing to its future. Because Caitlin Clark is no longer just a rookie sensation. She's a storm front rolling through every WNBA arena she walks into, disrupting game plans, rewriting narratives, and, whether people like it or not, forcing evolution. The Indiana Fever can either lean into that storm or get swept up in it. But right now, the energy around this team feels like resistance. Resistance to change. Resistance to ceding control. Resistance to the fact that a 22-year-old is outworking, outproducing, and outthinking players who've been in the league for years. And while veterans like Kelsey Mitchell may not be saying it outright, the body language, the on-court chemistry, or lack thereof, says plenty. You see it in the missed passes, the lack of spacing, the moments where Clark is calling for the ball at the top of the key, and everyone pretends not to see her. And don't think fans haven't noticed. Social media is ruthless. Every freeze frame, every Clark wide open while teammate forces a contested fadeaway, clip gets dissected like a JFK conspiracy. And that pressure? It's building. Fast. Fans are starting to turn on the old guard. They're calling out the locker room drama, the ego-driven shot selection, the refusal to adjust. They're not just rooting for Caitlin anymore. They're rallying behind her like she's the only sane voice in a room full of static. It's no longer about stats or scoring titles. It's about energy, leadership, vision. And Caitlin Clark is supplying all three. What's more, she's doing it under impossible circumstances. Let's talk about pressure. The kind that breaks most rookies. Clark didn't just come into this league with hype. She came in with expectations. National ones, corporate ones, cultural ones. She was expected to immediately rescue a franchise, elevate the league, inspire the next generation, and somehow do it all while navigating media narratives, subtle racism, locker room jealousy, and the kind of scrutiny usually reserved for politicians and pop stars. And yet, she shows up, game after game, practice after practice, post-game interviews, charity events, youth clinics, you name it, she's there, smiling, focused, unshaken, the model pro. Even when the cameras are off, she's grinding, working on her game, studying film, trying to build relationships, trying to create something inside a team that feels more like a chemistry experiment gone wrong than a functioning unit. But there's only so long one player can carry that burden before it either breaks her or she breaks through. That All-Star Weekend interview was the breakthrough. That was Clark planting her flag. She essentially said, "I'm done explaining myself. I'm done tiptoeing around fragile egos. I'm done absorbing the blame for things I can't control." She called out media lies without naming names. She dismissed online beefs with a shrug and a one-liner. She acknowledged the chaos without feeding into it. That's leadership. That's maturity. And that's exactly what the Fever need right now. Because the truth is, this team doesn't just need a new system. It needs a new identity. Right now, it's torn between two timelines. On one side, you've got the veterans, players who spent their careers in a more traditional WNBA landscape, where roles are rigid, hierarchy is sacred, and change is gradual. On the other side, you've got Clark, a player from the Steph Curry era, positionless, free-flowing, off the cuff, built for transition threes and two dribble drives, not methodical post-ups and slow half-court sets. These styles don't just clash. They cancel each other out. And that's what you're seeing on the court. A team trying to play two games at once. Half the roster wants to slow it down, isolate, grind out possessions. The other half wants to run, space, kick out, and move. It's basketball whiplash. No one knows who they are. And when you don't know who you are as a team, you lose. Meanwhile, Clark's trying to play like a Ferrari in a parking lot full of tractors. Every time she picks up speed, someone throws dirt in the engine. And yet, she doesn't quit. She resets. She adapts. She even, unbelievably, finds ways to make it work, leading the team in assists and still finding moments of magic despite the structural chaos around her. That's what makes her different. That's what makes her dangerous. She's not just talented. She's strategic. She sees the long game. And if the Fever don't get with that program soon, they're going to lose more than just games. They're going to lose her. Because here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Caitlin Clark is not locked into Indiana forever. She has options. She has leverage. She has an entire league. And let's be real, half of the NBA too, watching closely, wondering what happens next. If Indiana doesn't figure out how to build around her, instead of in spite of her, she could, and maybe should, start looking at other franchises. Franchises with modern systems. Franchises with leadership that understands how to nurture generational talent. Franchises that don't need passive-aggressive social media feuds to decide who gets the last shot. Because the real tea? This whole Clark versus Mitchell narrative never had to exist. There's a universe where they could have been the perfect backcourt duo. Inside out, power and finesse, speed and spacing. But that universe requires maturity, trust, a willingness to adapt. Instead, we got a war of vibes. And Caitlin's had enough. You can hear it in her tone. You can see it in her body language. That spark is still there, but it's sharper now, more guarded. She's learning the same lesson every young star learns. Not everyone wants you to win. Not everyone in your circle wants you to shine. And sometimes the biggest obstacles aren't defenders on the court. They're teammates off of it. But you know what? That's also part of the journey. Every great has gone through it. Jordan did. Kobe did. LeBron definitely did. The difference is the ones who came out stronger found a way to lead anyway. And Clark? She's already leading. She's leading with poise, with defiance, with quiet dominance. She's not waiting for approval anymore. She's setting the tone. The question is, who's coming with her? Because there's still time. The Fever can still course correct. The front office can still recenter the franchise around Clark's vision. Coach White can still pivot, implement a style that suits her star instead of trying to contain her. Mitchell and others can still buy in, can still grow into something greater than the sum of their parts. But the clock's ticking, and Clark's patience isn't infinite. The next few weeks will define everything. Either the Fever rally around their future, or they risk being remembered as the franchise that fumbled a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Because one thing's clear, Caitlin Clark isn't backing down. She's not shrinking to fit anyone else's comfort zone. She's not here to play nice with fragile egos or sit quietly while teammates' families throw shade on Facebook. She's here to win. And if Indiana's not ready for that, someone else will be. Ask ChatGPT. The irony in all of this? Caitlin Clark didn't walk into the WNBA with a chip on her shoulder. She didn't start fights. She didn't come in demanding special treatment, guaranteed shots, or a system built around her. What she did ask for, what any high-level athlete asks for, is support, a cohesive strategy, an opportunity to play her game at the highest level, surrounded by teammates and coaches who understand how to amplify strengths instead of suppressing them. But what she walked into instead was a franchise unprepared for the gravitational pull of a generational star. The Fever had the blueprint for a renaissance. They had the number 1 draft pick. They had the media attention. They had fans waiting in line just to watch shoot around. In a league desperate for breakout mainstream moments, they were gifted the golden ticket. And yet somehow they walked into that moment carrying old habits and small thinking. Here's the brutal truth. The WNBA is changing. Fast. It's entering an era of pace, spacing, analytics, and marketing muscle. It's becoming a league driven by player personality as much as player stats. It's a world tailor-made for someone like Caitlin Clark. But the Fever, as an organization, are still playing catch-up. They're still acting like it's 2009, when gritty defense and 64-point slogs were the norm. That model doesn't cut anymore. Not in a league with Sabrina Ionescu draining logo threes. Not with Aya Wilson dominating in transition. And definitely not with Clark pulling up from 35 feet with regularity and the confidence of a seasoned all-star. Yet here we are, watching her defer to veterans who don't seem interested in evolving with her. Watching a coach run sets that feel like molasses. Watching a team build walls where they should be opening lanes. And through it all, Clark continues to grind, to produce, to lead. Let's break this down further. Caitlin Clark is not just a scorer. She's a basketball engine. She thrives in movement, in chaos, in split-second decisions and mismatches. She needs shooters around her. She needs bigs who know how to roll, not just post. She needs pace, not just because it suits her game, but because it unlocks the best version of everyone around her. You slow the game down. You don't just neutralize her. You clip the wings of the entire system. Take Kelsey Mitchell, for instance. She's a great isolation scorer, but in a Clark-centric offense with proper flow, Mitchell could be even better. Imagine her catching in rhythm after Clark draws 2 defenders. Instead, we're seeing awkward staggered screens, cluttered paint touches, and wasted possessions that scream we haven't figured out how to coexist. And it doesn't stop with on-court stuff. Off the floor, you have a locker room divided, not just by personality, but by philosophy. Clark's presence is forcing a culture shift. Whether that's welcomed or resented depends on who you ask. But make no mistake, the old guard is losing control. The fan base is already chosen. The media's eyes are already focused. The sponsors, the broadcasters, the young girls in stands, they all know who the future is. And that, more than anything, is what stings for some of the veterans. Because they're not just watching someone else take the torch. They're watching an entire league structure reorient around someone who hasn't paid her dues, at least not in the way they understand it. But here's the thing. Clark has paid dues, just not in private. She paid them in front of 10 million people, game after game, season after season, breaking records and rewriting what's possible for women's basketball visibility. She walked into this league with receipts. And whether people like it or not, that earns her a seat at the table. If you're the Fever's front office, this is a moment where you have to decide, are you going to be an anchor or are you going to be a launch pad? Because right now, everything's in flux. You've got drama. You've got ego. You've got teammates publicly and privately clashing. But you've also got one of the most electrifying talents in the sport. This is your franchise crossroads. Here's what needs to happen. First, the front office must publicly and unequivocally back Clark. No more tepid statements about team growth or chemistry. No more hiding behind coach speak. Come out and say it. We are building around Caitlin Clark. Second, the offense needs to be restructured immediately, not next season, not after the All-Star break. Now, move away from static, ISO-heavy plays. Lean into motion. Hire an assistant who specializes in pace and space, if you have to. Call someone from the NBA who's worked under Mike D'Antoni or Steve Kerr. Get fresh thinking in the building. Third, address the locker room culture. If veterans are unwilling to buy in, they need to be traded. Period. No matter how many points they've scored or years they've played. The message has to be clear. This team has one direction now, and it's forward. Anyone looking sideways can leave. Fourth, empower Clark publicly. Let her take more ownership. Give her more media responsibility. Use her voice as a bridge between the team and the fan base. Stop trying to protect her from expectations. She's already carrying them. What she needs is reinforcement, not insulation. Fifth, and this one's critical, get her the resources she needs to stay healthy and happy. That means top-tier sports science, trainers who understand her body and play style, and a psychological support system that keeps her grounded amid the chaos. Because this isn't just a basketball job anymore. It's a pressure cooker. And the league can't afford for her to burn out. Caitlin Clark is not just another player. She's a proof of concept, a talking rebuttal to every exec who said women's basketball couldn't be commercially viable. She's what happens when you do invest, when you do market, when you do believe. And if the Indiana Fever can't figure that out, someone else will. In the end, the WNBA is watching. The fans are watching. Hell, even NBA players are watching. This saga, this bubbling tension, this locker room power struggle, it's not just about a bad stretch of games or misfired social media post. It's about who controls the narrative moving forward. And right now, that's Caitlin Clark. Not because she demands it, but because she's earned it. She's played through fouls, through shade, through schemes designed to slow her down. She's led the league in impact metrics even when her own teammates freeze her out. She's given this team every chance to rise with her. Now the clock's ticking. Either they match her pace, or they get left behind. Because Caitlin Clark, she's already moving, and the rest of the league, it better catch up.